Why are you fanning, babe?
Huh?
Why are you fanning?
Because I'm hot.
Oh, why are you hot? It's cool in here. Hey, we just gonna start the show.
No, just give me a minute.
I'll give you a minute. Does that feel good? Ah, she needs a minute. You are glowing and glistening. Are you pregnant? Why does she look like she was getting ready to slap me, yo?
See you guys for the next episode of Behind Closed Doors.
That was a lackluster intro.
I'm over here dying right now.
And this is why we got to talk about conflict and resentment. Yeah, it goes down. One of the core things we're going to talk about today on the next edition of Behind Closed Doors.
With the Brooks.
Yeah, that part. We're back, guys. Listen, super excited to have all of you guys back for another edition of Behind Closed Doors with the Brooks Sisters. What's wrong? Did I scare you?
No.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we've been unpacking Cherie's new book. Well, it's not really a new book. We use these principles in our coaching sessions with entrepreneurs, particularly those who are married trying to build a business. But you wrote a book, Building a Successful Marriage and Business Without Losing Either One, Cherie, and we've been breaking down sort of these principles for any of you guys. And by the way, this is not just for those that are building businesses, on how it can help. Before we go there, if this is your first time to the channel, I'm Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and a coach. This lovely, light-skinned young lady sitting next to me is...
Cherie A. Brooks Jr. Cherie A. Brooks Jr., author, speaker, and coach.
Normally she come with 1,000 titles and energy galore. What's the problem this morning?
Nothing.
Babe? You good?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
All right, let's go.
My glasses are fogging up on me, but I'm good.
Stop fogging up my glasses.
I'm having a little private moment over here.
Listen, it's
steaming up my own glasses.
Steaming up my own glasses. Would you like a tissue bag?
The pleasures of getting older.
Listen,
yeah.
Listen.
And so first, before we get into today's episode, I want to address the elephant in the room.
Elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room.
Okay.
What is the elephant in the room?
I don't know. Where is he?
So.
I see a parrot in the room.
No, probably 2 weeks ago. I looked a little different.
You did. You did. It's a new. I've gotten used to it by now, babe. You.
So for those wondering, yes, I had locks in my hair. I had starter locks, and so they were not fully matured locks, and I combed them out.
Yeah.
And so
that was the whole thing.
I combed them out because here in Panama it's extremely hot and
here
humid.
in Panama City.
Panama City, Panama is extremely hot and extremely humid,
yep.
And I wasn't able to wash my hair as frequently as I needed to, and so I don't like dirty hair.
Dirty hair.
And so I combed it out so that I can wash my hair more frequently.
So we love it. I like it.
So that was the elephant.
Got your Jill Scott mini going on.
I had something going on. I don't know. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do with it yet.
I ain't mad at you. I like it.
But I'm letting it kind of just be right now.
Be
free.
Listen, I understand.
And being free.
I understand thoroughly. Let's get into the You silly.
Today's episode, we're talking about breaking points. What happens when couples ignore core values in marriage and business? Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one, because I think a lot of times, babe, people don't even know what they are.
Right. It's kind of hard to ignore something that you don't know exists.
Yeah. In other words, you're ignoring it, but really it's something that you never knew existed. So the person that, is being, their values are being trampled on, I'll put it that way.
Right.
They feel like, don't you see me? Don't you see this bothers me? Don't you see this hurts me? And I think what most spouses and most people who are in partnership together, I see you, but I didn't know that meant that to you.
Right. Ooh,
does that make sense? Yeah. And so therefore, I don't know that I'm doing something that's really like scratching fingernails down a chalkboard for you. And after a while, it drives you crazy. So let's talk a little bit about.
Before we get into, we're going to give you some reasons why ignoring it can affect your relationship negatively. The first thing that you have to do is identify what your values are. And so there are several exercises. We actually have a exercise that we take people through that work with us to help them to identify what their core values are. But I strongly suggest that you and your spouse sit down and figure out what are your core values, and you do that periodically because they change. And so just because my core values were one thing when we first got married, they've changed significantly 25 years. And over the course of our marriage, they've changed. And so we do check-ins to see what our core values are to make sure that we're still respecting each other's values.
Let me give one little pushback. When we talk about core values, I want y'all to hear those two words, those values that are core. And I'm going to add something, at the moment.
Right.
In this stage of your life, this season of your life. What was a core value for me at 25 is not necessarily a core value for me at 55. Does that make sense? Not that I'm 55, but it rhymed with 25 and 55, so I'm actually, it'll be 58. I know how old I am. But the point I'm making is, and that's it, like legit, if you don't reassess what you're, and it doesn't mean that, you know, let's say for instance, fun is a core value for you at 25. It may still be a value for you as you get older, but it might not be a core. I wanted to give some clarity to that.
Right, and so identifying those core values is key. And so once you've identified those, you've communicated to them, now we get into the mucky water. So when you avoid or you ignore your spouse's core values, it can lead to an erosion of trust.
100%.
It's a gradual erosion. It doesn't happen overnight. But you have to remember that trust is a cornerstone of every relationship. And so if I feel like I can't trust you because you constantly trample over my values, it will diminish my trust in you. Not, you know, a trust that you say you're going to do what you do, but that inner trust that I know that you got me, that you're there to support me. That will slowly begin to erode because I'll start to feel devalued. I'll feel that you don't value me, that you don't consider me, you don't prefer me. Because you continually overstep or ignore something that I have shared with you as a core value.
You know, when you say over time and it chips away, babe, I just think of some real life examples and the consequences of that is. So for example, when Cherie and I got married, I learned very quickly that a core value of hers at the time was integrity. And integrity was not a core value of mine. I was in a business that the less integrous you were, the more money you made. So I got, picture this, and my counselor actually told me this during that time. You get rewarded for negative behavior all the time in the public sector. So when you come home and you display that negative behavior and you're no longer being rewarded for it, but it's now a problem, all of a sudden there's a conflict there. There's a disparity there that you're trying to wrestle with. So for me, I had to learn that this woman's core value was integrity. And so every time I didn't do what I said I would do, that's not integrous. What that said to her was, he, A, is a liar, B, he doesn't care about anybody else but himself, C, I don't know if I can trust him with my emotions and my feelings because he disregards the small stuff. Y'all hear what I'm saying? So, but I'm not looking at that as I'm violating a value of yours. Let me just say this last thing, baby, and I want you to jump in. When you step on a person's value, be prepared to fight. I'm going to say it again. When you step on something that someone values, whether you know it or not, be prepared for conflict.
Right, and like I said, and that conflict comes because you have ignored or you have disregarded me.
I think disregard is a great word.
Disregarded me, and so therefore I'm going to fight for what it is that I need in the relationship. And so the fact that, you know, you won't do this thing that I've asked you or that I've shared with you that's important to me, or you constantly keep doing this thing that I've shared with you that is something against something that I value, it's going to cause conflict because we're going to be at battle with each other on this particular issue constantly, and that's, that can have a negative impact on the relationship.
One of the things that Cherie and I consistently conflict over, or we kind of, it becomes an issue, and that is, clear communication. And we continue to go back to that. I know that for some of y'all, you're like, oh God, here we go again. Well, let me say this. When something is not clearly communicated, it will produce conflict every time. And so Cherie often will say, hey, did you hear what I said? Meaning the response that I'm given isn't the response that she was looking for, because quite frankly, it's like you asking somebody to take out the trash and then they wash the dishes, right? Like, did you not, I asked you to take out the trash, and then what you do is you say, well, I washed the dishes, like, what's the problem? It wasn't what they asked for. And so it creates so for me, I had to slow myself down, and to this day, it's still a work in progress, where I have to slow myself down, be present in the moment, get clarity of what it is that she's asking of me. And I'm just using a very, benign issue of that. But this gets deep, y'all. But to get clarity, let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. Is this what you're asking of me? Is this what you're looking for from me? And then having an opportunity to talk about in the moment, in real time, whether or not I can deliver on that.
Right.
And I think that that's the thing that doesn't get cleared up.
Yeah, and so I have a real example. So for us,
mine was fake.
No, yours was good, but I'm good a little more in depth.
Y'all hear how the clarity goes? It's like she said one thing, I'm hearing so no, my stuff is fake, right?
No, I'm just gonna get a little more in depth. So
there we go.
For us, early on in our relationships, one of the biggest values of mine that got ignored was my value for stability. I valued stability in the home, and that did not necessarily mean financial. It was feeling stable. It was security. I valued security. Yep. And so there was a season where financially, and particularly, Glenn was not able to provide that because he was working for ministry at the time. They were getting paid off and on. It was a whole thing. But that lack of stability, and because I would share, hey, this is where we are, this is what we need to be doing, and that kept getting whitewashed. It got ignored. It got stepped over. It caused me to eventually become resentful of not only Glenn, but also of the thing that he was doing. And so when we got married, he was working, he was an executive for a radio station. He left that to go into ministry full time. We were in agreement with that. I was very much a new believer in Christ, so all this was new to me. I had never, I had an uncle that was a pastor, but I didn't know what that meant, really, with him, becoming an associate pastor at the church. I didn't have any understanding of what that was, and so over time, I grew to resent this thing that I believed he was called to do, this thing that I believed we were doing together, but it also caused me to resent him because I felt like, and I'm going to keep it a buck, I felt like that thing became his mistress.
Yeah.
That because he was so focused on that he was preferring that over me. He wasn't putting emphasis on my value, what I needed, the things that were my core values. He was more focused on that thing, and it led to resentment. And because that led, it covers all of this. There was a lack of trust that was developed because of that. There was, constant conflict. And resentment built up over that, and it wasn't until you were able to truly sit down and share with me, hey, I understand that this is your value. I realize that I have not honored that. Yeah. And I'm going to change in that area, and I'm going to honor that. And this was not about him going out and getting a six-figure job. This was not about him, necessarily hitting a particular number. It was him actually showing me that he was honoring my value, and he was putting things in place to be able to start giving me that stability, which started with us having conversations regularly, talking about what was really going on, and him keeping me abreast, and us moving towards, us coming up with a plan together to move towards reaching that goal, fulfilling that goal, that value for me.
Let me help people out with a little bit of a backstory. So Cherie grew up in a a dual parent home. Both parents there, her entire childhood, stability there. Her father worked for the federal government. Stable was the name of the game. Like, it wasn't a lot of excitement, but it was stable,
Right.
and you could count on things being
Never had lights cut
consistent.
off.
Never had
went
lights
without
cut off.
food, none of that.
Consequently, I grew up the polar opposite. Single mother, struggling to put food on the table for 2 kids, and doing everything she needed to do, 2, 3 jobs, side hustle. And I remember that my life of feast to famine was inbred in me. Like, it was something that I've always known. So the conditioning that I kind of had coming into a marriage was, we're gonna be all right. I don't know how we're gonna be okay. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm not gonna stress, because here's what I know. Somehow, some way, we're gonna figure this thing out. My mother always did. And even when things got bad, we were never on the street. And so I just, for me, the bottom wasn't that bad. And I could get used to it.
Your bottom was way down here. My bottom was here.
Absolutely. But that goes back to
Right.
just this idea of core values. I did not value stability.
Right.
I valued energy. I valued work.
I wouldn't say you didn't value stability. Your level of your idea of stability was different from mine, and that's the thing. I think you guys could share the same value, but it could look different, and that's why communicating, talking is important.
And that's something we never did. So we never talked about this stuff that we're talking about now. We didn't go into depth prior to getting married. What is your what is your comfort level? Like, okay, I'll give you a quick example. When if you've ever invested, if you ever had a financial investor, if you've ever invested anything in any business or whatever the case may be, oftentimes a financial planner or a financial investor, they're going to assess what they call your risk tolerance level. What is your tolerance for risk? Cherie's tolerance for risk was different than mine. Her tolerance for pain was different than mine. And I think that because we didn't talk about it, it caused this level of resentment. And I didn't know that what was happening was her trust was beginning to fade in me. It was now she doesn't respect me because I'm not delivering on the things she needs. And I think that that's what leads to number 3. And so if you're just jumping in, and hopefully this is helping you, if you are being helped, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Click in the descriptions below if you need any tools that can help you. Cherie and I do this all day, every day. And this is our job, whether it's a book or a program or some kind of coaching platform you need, we got you. One of the things that I realized, babe, is that this caused us to become stagnant in so many ways.
Yes.
And I remember that period when we were in ministry, and I was so busy trying to help and do my part to keep things afloat for the ministry. I didn't see the stagnation that it was causing in my family.
Right.
I didn't see the brick walls. And I think that, unfortunately, you know, fellas, and y'all, I'm sure y'all resonate with this. You can become drunk on your own vision. You can become intoxicated by the dream. It's like, nah, this is where we going. And if you're a type A personality, if you are a, extrovert where you just get things done and that kind of stuff, you will often dismiss these signals and these signs that your spouse is sending you. And that will cause your growth to become stymied for sure.
Right, and I think that oftentimes people ignore the signs of there being stagnation in their relationship. And I think that if you notice that things have gotten dull, for lack of better terms, it's more than you guys just going through the motion. There's really it's just blah between the two of you.
Sure.
Oftentimes there's something fueling that.
Yep.
It's not, necessarily you guys are just tired. And that could be part of it. But I think by having the conversation, say, hey, am I meeting your needs? Am I, are your values, do you feel like your values are being met in our relationship? Good. Having those conversations will help you guys to identify what are the holes in the relationship. And every relationship goes through.
Absolutely.
Everybody goes through seasons, periods, when things just become blah. But that's why it's important to always be working on your relationship. Marriage is work, and you have to continually work on it. But I think that when you notice those things, what we normally do, we may see that, but we be like, it's just whatever. and I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm
life
doing.
Life be lifing.
Like, right, all that, and you just keep moving. But the longer the problem is, the longer it stays stagnant, the further the two of you are growing apart.
Yep.
So the longer you stay in these seasons of just this blah, there should be some type of
I think it's a spark, it's an energy that just kind of keeps things smoldering and
I like smoldering. There should be something always smoldering. There should be, now it doesn't have to be full-blown flames, but there should be this, they would say when you were dating, that sexual tension.
Ooh.
There should be this emotional tension.
Ooh.
But it's a good emotional tension,
right.
not bad. But
right.
there should be this thing that's always there. And when you notice that that's not there, when you guys are just simply two ships passing in the night,
that's a problem.
And that goes on for an extended period of time. Now there are seasons where that's going to happen because you both are just busy.
Yeah.
But if you've noticed, that's been for the last 3 months. We ain't really sat down and talked. We ain't, you know, haven't spent really quality time together. There's normally something brewing underneath, and oftentimes that somebody's values have been trampled on, somebody's values have been ignored, and they have pulled back.
Yeah.
And so when one person pulls back, if the other person doesn't draw them in, you both will slowly drift apart.
Guys, let me say this. If you have not picked up Cherie's book, here's a shameless plug, get it. And the reason why is because I remember when you put pen to paper and started really, really pushing this out, babe. What got me excited was, and here's what y'all don't understand, Cherie is the architect of what is Glenn P. Brooks Jr. LLC. When I say architect, she's the frame builder. She was the person that built a thing for us to be able to contain this vision in. Yes, I'm the visionary on a lot of fronts. Yes, I'm the one that comes up with creative ideas and implements a lot of stuff. I might be the speaker you see. I might be the person on social media that you connect with. But in this book, she talks about some of those principles. And I think what's important is, whether you ever talk to us or not as coaches and hire us to coach you, this book is chock full of so much information that it will just help you if you apply it. The last thing that I want to say, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about some of the principles in this book next week, babe, but I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you for consistently bringing my attention to the stagnation that we were feeling, bringing my attention to the things that were not being carried out. Fellas, so often we get our egos involved and can't nobody tell us nothing because our egos are so fragile. And because of some of the stuff that we've gone through, sometimes we've got wives who are sympathizers and they over sympathize, quite frankly. You need somebody to say, nah, man, this isn't working and I'm not leaving, but we need to fix this. Mm-hmm. And you used to consistently show me, this can't stay broken. This has to be fixed. There's some things that if you kind of leave it broken, it can be it's still functional. Relationships aren't like that. Mm-hmm. If there's something in your relationship that's broken, the relationship will cease to function over time. Yes. And whether that's in your business, whether that's in your marriage, it doesn't matter. So I want y'all guys to get this book. Tune in next week. And let's keep this conversation going, because here's what I know to be true. You cannot get to any place of significance by yourself. Cause we all need some help. Help. I need some help. Y'all be good. We'll talk next week.
Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
Lord Jesus.
Help me.
We'll talk to y'all next week. Oh, God. Yep. You are silly.